Matches that we had throughout the regular season now brought to us on LAN for the winners finals. We've got number 1 Bay State, a chance to try to assert maybe a little bit of dominance over number 2 Northwood after they had beat each other up pretty bad in the regular season. It was Bay State to survive through a 5-map affair. Now the weight couldn't be any heavier. It's about trying to get to that winners, get to the grand finals from the winners bracket.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot just on the line when it comes down to this matchup. Grand finals, sure. Prize pool, all right. But you got to think about it. Just between these two teams throughout the entirety of the Vanguard year, how many times they have gone up against each other. One time in the regular season here in the CCL, Bay State won it. Northwood has also taken series off of Bay State in recency in other tournaments as well. Couldn't set things up any more feisty, man. This one's going to be spicy.
Well, here we go. It's number 1, number 2, and time to meet our first opponent. It's Northwood coming out in the Timberwolves.
Not necessarily in a position to try to fly at this either, because you still have Radial on top ring who will find 2.
Goes for the fast defuse. Radial gonna get one shot in, knows to check the bomb right away. Is he gonna check it fast enough? But the bigger problem here is that it's 26-22.
We rock down all of that second corridor plus that B lanes, and now you're messing with high ground positioning here from Zing, just trying to finesse their life.
Now here before you can consider getting to the 7th. Oh, big double for Infinite up top.
Raw looking for that rotation, looking to find themselves on site, but Infinite has something to say about it.
And you got to turn around. If you're Talon, you're going to get shot in the back. Fame able to get one, gets tagged up. Can he get away with his life? He can get away with a double.
He dared to really follow through with him, to hold down that side, get the trades off with him, and even then, that's a huge choke off for St. Clair.
Hard to find many flaws with this Northwood roster over the course of both the regular season and their postseason run so far, especially when you consider the fact that this team, put together now for the first year, is also boasting some former champions and big parts of those Ottawa teams from last year, the Cold War year. The only blemish was the matchup that they faced versus Bay State.
Yeah, that's right. That is their only one series loss across the entirety of the Vanguard year, and albeit very, very close. The one thing that this Northwood team still holding on top of the world truly is themselves on control. Fame, Chris Radial, you name it, they are able to absolutely light things up no matter the map that comes through with the combination for that map number 3. They're explosive as you like it. Definitely going to be a tough matchup.
On the other side, of course, the team that beat them in the regular season, time to introduce the Bulldogs out of Bay State.
Positioning or no map control
For the Timberwolves over here on the beachfront, Rex has to deal with Radial inside of...
Tingly. Now the last hit for Northwood has to come through the front. Stuns in the mix, but it doesn't deter Phantoms. For the scrap time, and Rex is denied instantly on the outside looking in. Druxy gets a look at Fame.
But if you're the Panthers, you need to scrap this. No, you can't scrap this, though, because Druxy can win it here.
The shot's, though, not clean. Pistol in hand, it still works. Silly will look to get a regen, a reload, and a reposition. Maybe doesn't need the whole reload. Gets a second, no problem. Has a read on where Bink is positioned. If this stun connects, Bink is in trouble! Yeah. And it's a 1v3! We could probably spend about half an hour talking about the careers that all 4 of these players for Bay State have had. It's just one of those things, the spotlight always shines a little bit brighter on Silly due to the history that he himself has put together in the professional scene. But you get Rex and Phantoms together and a really solid player in Druxy who was so successful through Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare and BO4. You're kind of dealing with a squad here where it's kind of like Northwood, hard to pick apart vulnerabilities, especially when you consider the respawn.
It is almost impossible when you add in all the stipulations from even what happened throughout the regular season during Stage 2 and the last time these two teams ended up facing up against each other individually and LAN all at the same time. Who's going to have the upper hand when it comes down to this overall battle? But I can tell you this much, that this team of Bay State, they have looked confident. Their only blemish across the entire weekend is just dropping 2 controls so far.
Yeah, the biggest thing about this Bay State roster is I think they come in as one of the stronger S&D teams just based on who they've already faced, not just on LAN, but also their regular season run, having to play not just Northwood, but they also had a pretty solid dominant affair in the Search and Destroy versus teams like Davenport, St. Clair, and most importantly, I would say Concord to qualify in the first place to get to LAN. Right. So I think the biggest thing all of a sudden is, do we really focus on what's going to happen in the 2 and possibly the 5 again? Because last time these two teams had met, the Search and Destroy was pretty comfortable scoreline-wise for Bay State.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the last times that these teams did face off against each other, Bay State absolutely just put on a smoke show, a clinic, if you will, when it comes down to the Search and Destroy. They were outpacing, they were outmaneuvering, they were catching both Fame and Radial in a blunder. Just every single time that you thought that Fame or Radial were able to almost try to fish out of First Blood, an AR was watching the crossfire. And that also has been showcased so far throughout the entirety of the weekend. Phantoms has been crazy good all weekend long when it comes down to his positioning, his repositioning, timings, and everything else in between to make sure that no pesky SMGs get behind enemy lines, if not find those crucial timings to be able to find First Bloods. Timmy's already locking things down with that AR.
Two of our most dominant teams in the history of CCL with just star-studded rosters on both sides. So with that in mind, we got to figure out where exactly the battleground will take us with our 5-map series layout. I think the biggest thing from here on out is there going to be kind of a let's force as many engagement as possible? Are we going to try to get some scrappier respawns in there? Or is this going to be one of those, hey, we're going to outthink you and really make sure that you have to really outplay us in the decision-making side of the game? Here are your picks and bans as we go on through. Northwood getting rid of the Tuscan to start things off as far as the hard point is concerned. And then on the opposite side, well, I mean, hey, Tuscan's been kind of a battleground for Search and Destroy for both of these teams so far, so not surprising to see it get through the process, and Northwood in particular wanting to get that Search and Destroy saved for them, what would be, I believe, map 5 overall since they are the home team.
Yeah, absolutely the case. I mean, that's what's going to set things up quite wonderfully for them. It's just making sure that they do end up getting that Tuscan Search and Destroy for that map number 5 if it does end up going the distance. Even still, what was also quite what was bolded for me coming away from those picks and bans was Bay State, as far as the control is concerned, not allowing Gavutsu to come through this time around, making sure that it's either going to be Berlin or Tuscan. Northwood wanted to throw it down on Berlin, it may seem, but very interesting first 3 maps that we do have for ourselves. We do have those 2 Berlins, and in between that Desert Siege, pace might be slowed up ever so slightly when it comes down to that map number 2, but we're going to get a lot of good SMG showcasing as far as this first 3 maps are concerned.
Really, as far as both of these teams have kind of fared throughout the weekend as far as their normal picks and bans, the only real weird outlier in this series as far as what has not been a part of at least the series set for either of these two teams is actually map 4, that Bacage hardpoint. So definitely kind of keep a fond eye over to that if we get all the way to 4, which I think a lot of people are expecting it to be. And on the opposite, I think just kind of looking at the first hardpoint in particular, this Berlin hardpoint has been a preference for both of our two teams so far, mostly for Bay State. That's where they absolutely beat the brakes out of Ottawa in that upper round 1 matchup. So here's your kind of overall comparison of the entirety of the season between both these two teams. And like we mentioned, both squads are unbelievable in respawn. You expect to see totals like this.
Yeah, you should, absolutely. As far as the overall is concerned, you will end up seeing some pretty close numbers for sure, but it's always going to be the Search and Destroys that are going to be able to be the difference maker in between these two teams throughout the entirety of the year. Yes, both of these two teams have absolutely laid waste to so many teams when it comes to the respawns, outpacing their opponents, putting themselves in situations where they're just always making sure they're turning scrap into initial. Any one of these 4 players, no matter who they were facing throughout the regular year, was just constantly just getting multi-kill after multi-kill, putting so many teams that we have been casting, you and I specifically, over the past many different years in titles and 100-point clubs.
All right, well, with that all in mind, of course, these two teams tested versus one another. We had a chance to sit down with the players and actually see what they had to think about the event going into it, maybe how their chances may wind up for them if there were to be another matchup versus this Northwood team. We'll hear from them right now.
The final guy in the play was Bing, so you know I had to challenge him right away, obviously. My name is Justin Fargo Palmer. My gamer tag is Silly, and I play for Bay State College.
Opportunity for 2v4 to come through. They know Fame is on the outside. The shot's, though, not clean. Pistol in hand. It still works. As Silly will look to get a regen, a reload, and a reposition. Maybe doesn't need the whole reload. Gets a second, no problem. Has a read on where Bink is positioned. If this stun connects, Bink is in trouble! Dude. And it's a 1v3!
So basically, as soon as I saw the map that this play was on, I knew exactly what it was. It was a 1v3 ace against Northwood. Basically, I got an easy first kill beginning of the round. It was a 2v4 where my teammate immediately died after I got the first kill. Pistoled Fame off the head glitch out in the desert. Infinite actually lost me, so I shot him in the back, and the final guy in the play was Bing, so you know I had to chow him right away, obviously. And it was a beautiful, beautiful 1v3. My teammates were pretty much dead silent when they all died because they're like, okay, we're going to lose a round. Like 1v3s very rarely happen, and they're basically all just screaming when I got the 1v3 because it was insane. We actually won that series, and I think that was definitely the catalyst to kind of give us the momentum to close it out. That's definitely my best play in College COD this year for sure. It's up there somewhere. It's definitely up there in my Vanguard plays. I obviously haven't had too many extravagant ones, so that's probably close to the top.
Are you going to win this weekend?
Yes. We're on LAN, and you know, Northwood doesn't have their triple Texas or whatever they have, their triple South host, so yeah, we're definitely going to win.
Confidence was going to be high, and just to kind of use that as maybe a facilitator looking at the 1v3 to start. Of course, Silly's going to come with all the confidence in the world, and you know, that's the thing is mistakes that we've talked a lot about. But when it comes to the teams that are not necessarily looked at as the favorites for this weekend, you can't make them versus the top teams. Hell, if you're a top team, you can't be making mistakes versus other top teams. A 1v3 is just one of those situations that Northwood's going to look back on going into the series, knowing that that's going to be map number 2, and say, we have to finish off our numbers advantage. Let's not let any craziness happen.
The fact that it was allowed through can already suggest that Northwood had to have gone back to study that VOD to make sure that that Desert Sea Search and Destroy does not play out the same way. Obviously feeling a lot more comfortable with their veto to get at least one map that they don't enjoy playing. So Desert Siege has to be polished. All Search and Destroy, truly, for Northwood has to be a lot better, so that way you don't get 1v3'd by Justin again.
I mean, I will say, though, for what it's worth, Northwood has showed up this weekend and done exactly what we needed to see them do. It hasn't just been 3-0 sweeps in both their series. They have blown both teams out so far. So when it comes to trying to facilitate improvements, maybe enough has been done. Hard to say, though, because both these two teams, it's very difficult to find any sort of a difference between them at different times. But with that said, that's just the setup. Our players are about to get ready to go. We'll step away for just another brief pause before we jump on into map number 1, Berlin Hardpoint, on the backside of the break. Welcome back, everybody. We are moments away from loading on into map number 1 in the winners finals between number 1 and number 2. Bay State going up against Northwood, where Bay State's looking to establish some dominance in the head-to-head matchup. Otherwise, maybe it's Northwood with the improvements that were required in the Surge that could maybe supplant them. Winner moves on in with a major advantage going into the grand finals. But before we get on in, we of course have to introduce who the star student of the matchup is going to be. Obviously, a lot of focus comes to a player like Justin Silly Fargo. But as we continue to talk about, this roster is star-studded from top to bottom. And as you were talking about in particular, Timmy Phantoms has been unreal so far this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel like this has been a consistent conversation that we've had about Phantoms for many different years when it comes down to Call of Duty. As an AR player, you expect Phantoms to play to that role. Sure, anchor out some spawns, maybe get a rotation in, try to play for a couple of late exit kills where you can. No, Timmy is not afraid to get his hands dirty. He always knows where to be at the right time. Exclusively in that Search and Destroy and in Hardpoint, he is that anchor that is in the back line, making sure that nobody gets into the faces of his SMG players for free.
Well, here we go. It's Berlin Hardpoint, I believe, is map number 1. So we'll see as we get ready to jump on in.
Berlin looks
both
like
teams,
a little early.
Here's the thing, though, about Berlin, which we are going to be loading on into. Both teams have been so good at splitting focus at the exact right times. Will there be advantages on one side or the other in that IGL department, or will it just be a straight-on slaughterfest? We'll find out as Bay State from the favorite side is the first team in with numbers, and a good little zone here as Phantom reads where the play on the outside of Pillars is going to come from, and the first 2 kills favor the Bulldogs.
We'll at least be able to open up Pillars. It's a big trade to be able to find for themselves, but it's not enough pressure to be able to constantly move their way forward. Finally, some dust has settled over here. Northwood, Infinite, able to find themselves on 3 kills in a row for their second life. Not the greatest sun we've ever seen, but still the pressure is starting to loom in the distance. Northwood looking to contest.
The thing about it is there's just really not a lot of numbers here to do too much. And as Infinite falls, now it's one of those decision-making moments that we continue to talk about. Will Northwood have the ability to try to finesse and try to make life difficult off of this exit from P1 to 2? Looks like they're not going to be allowed to, as Silly's able to at least take down 1 on the cross. So Bay State kind of winning the war on two fronts early, 44-2 after the first hard point. But as we open up mailroom, it's 3 straight kills for the Timberwolves, and that'll lead to some pretty significant time here early.
Just got to be careful. Got one player that is lurking from behind that Struxy. Nice trade to at least come through very quickly. Close spawns are still in effect here for Bay State. And, well, you're already able to deal with one. That's Chris Radial. That was over on the cross, but Infinite is doing a bang-up job just making sure that they're playing in and around these staircases, so that way Bay State never have a full idea where he's located at.
It's a massive set of kills for Northwood, but even with that, the last 2 members for Bay State are able to open up some space around the street side. They could still work this in. And how about the little pinch play coming around the backside? Just initiative being taken by Bay State, but the kills maybe not quite as convincing as you would have figured. So scrap time will be conceded by Northwood. Looking to still play forward, though. Create some space in between you and yourself, getting over towards Fire Lobby. And as Bay State will lock in and get to right around the 60-point threshold, it's really on Northwood. You have to hold this setup right here.
Yeah, you need at least 40 seconds here, you would think. With this setup, specifically looking at it, Radial's up top fire. You have one player still zoning away over by the ducks. That's going to be Bink. He's taking a very forward position, trying to catch players on the cross before they actually rotate out.
This is massive. You've now locked in your spawns for sure. If there were to be a play for Bay State to flip, it would be well read and easily read, I would say, by Bink. And, well, as the stack does come through mailroom, with a couple of kills from the front, there is actually still a chance to open up the backside of these spawns. Still 35 seconds to fight for, but Bink off the respawn picks up where he had left off himself, and that now allows the Northwood Esports squad to focus purely on the front, and a little pinch play from Radial will completely clear out fire.
So going pinstripe, Silly's going to hit this through the upper courtyard side. This pinch needs to be effective, but just as soon as Silly tries to come through the front door, his teammates fall over by the B lane. Still close spawns, and Northwood are going to walk away with what seemingly feels like a full 50.
They win this hard point for sure, but like you mentioned, this is closer to a full 60 seconds than just 45, and wow, that is convincing from Northwood. Exactly what the doctor ordered after being beat up essentially on the first hard point and heavily contested on the second. Somehow, some way, they're actually convincingly in the lead for the first time. So now we go back over towards Train Yard. Bink by himself, the only player nearby. Great read with the pistol to get him onto 4 in a row. That also should block spawns. Where is Bay State going to spawn up at? You would think bottom left. No, not the case, actually. Drugsy spawns up in place behind the hard point, so Northwood's going to be missing this information, and now it's just down to who wins the opening gunfights as they look for the break.
Oh, big timing. Could end up coming through around the backside. There goes Bink, but just as soon as they're making that play happen, Drugsy is putting on a clinic inside the hard point itself. Big 2 kills to come all the way through, but close spawns still come in for Northwood.
Yeah, they eventually get what they came for. It just wasn't as easily read as you would have assumed. So now the hard work comes as you have to work this break from a 50-50 form. AR's lighting things up for the Bulldogs as Fame continues to throw at least some consideration towards the scrap time, but it's really just, honestly speaking, way too easy for Bay State after their proximal spawns continue to be anchored up, and that leads to now their first major significant lead since the opening, 20-point gap, and we look over to what's happening on the minimap over the middle, as you already have kind of the ability for Bay State not just to play for high ground, they're already looking to flip the spawns back around to get to the left-hand side, and, well, Phantoms will spawn up exactly there.
Yep, that's exactly what you want to see from Bay State, able to get themselves that preferred side of the map. You also have player number 7, that's going to be Silly, that is playing up in top mail as well. This is such a tough crossfire to be able to deal with because you can see what Northwood are wanting to do. Trying to get Train Station in their possession. Nice nade from Infinite. Will get top mail in their possession this time around for Northwood, but you don't break the spawns quite yet. You just make sure you can hold the 50-yard line.
Yeah, these crossing angles for Bay State just kind of safely from the top side of Fire or over by P1 Lobby. It just gives you such an easy look and usually allows you a chance to get the first couple of shots in, which has led to some convincing gunfights for Bay State. Right back up to 20-plus points goes the lead. And with only 18 seconds to fight for on P5, Northwood's attention now has to very considerably start moving towards how do we get over to P1. And Drugs is going to make life difficult. Pinching from the backside of Train Station. Now all of a sudden Bay State have a chance to not just work over to the backside of Train Station, they're also zoning the rotation top side. And Northwood, they may as well be spawning all the way in Estonia at the moment. They're so far away from this next hard point.
This is going to be a significant amount of time that Bay State should be able to collect damn near for free. But you got to be careful, though, because nobody was watching the cross. You got a little bit of a reposition that was starting to come through from Phantoms. Radial found himself behind the statue. You also have Bink that's right behind this play as well, and now all of Bay State spawn out. Northwood have broken on in.
Watch Drugsy. 3 in a row for him. He's in a position to play through double stairs to cut off the reinforcements so the rest of his teammates work from the front, and the kills do come through. Bay State on their break attempt, a 3-for-1 exchange, and Drugsy almost able to continue his 3, but cut aside. 28 seconds to fight for. Northwood looking for a rebreak and a rotation, and it's all Bay State in and around the hill.
And look at them. They're still trying to press up a little bit further forward, but you have another flank that's coming Okay, Radio comes all the way through Secret. He's trying to make this play happen, but Phantoms is locking down the line of sight, and then you have Silly off the respawn immediately. Take a look at the rotation. This has been a massive retake for Bay State on P1, but they won't be able to win the rotation scot-free. Not quite yet, but what a lead has been built.
Yeah, you really have to look right here at Chris Radio. He needs to lock down this position through mid-statue. Just make life as hard as possible for Bay State. Looking to rotate, and off-screen, Chris is able to find a double. It's Infinite playing the high ground. Teammates below him looking to lock down the time itself, and Bay State has very limited amounts of room to work with. The lead, which was about 70, now all of a sudden down to about 40 in a blink of an eye. And Northwood's continual needed dominance is showing up at the exact right time. 3 straight kills coming out. Phantoms, no chance to even fire back. And it's Radial, the catalyst for success on 4 in a row.
Working himself up towards a couple streaks. Bay State were isolated on 4 different fronts trying to collapse on that play. They had no immediate idea where Northwood were located at. You saw players trying to finesse continuously. Radio still on that 4 spree, just looking at that B lane control. You also have to be thinking about the rotation as well, because Bay State have not been able to break back in, so you would have to assume that they're immediately focused over towards the rotation for new.
This is a free exit, and Radio actually gets an informational read that Rex is actually going to be playing close through Crane's side. So the game right back to essentially dead even. Bink for an opening double. He's looking to create space over towards Lobby. And, well, actually, with Infinite spawning on the bottom side, they could actually just double hit this. Fame on the deep. Oh, this is working out great for Northwood. 4 straight eliminations. Drugsy, the last Bulldog to stay in place, and he's looking to block spawns while the rest of his teammates come back through over towards Train Station. But there just aren't enough kills to come out. And it's Northwood with Bink on 5 in a row that take their next commanding lead with a chance to possibly lock in the last 30 if they read that the spawns just flipped again.
They should be fully aware of this. They've never killed Drugsy. Drugsy has been back here. He did find 1 kill previously, so here come the close spawns. Bay State looking to break back in. This would be a big 20 for them to be able to find. The kills would suggest that they're going to be able to do so. Fame's in a position to at least maybe try to contest for some scrap time. Can't even get their way in. Now you just have to chalk it, leave Radio behind with the submachine gun. Maybe they can finesse for some scrap time. You want to make sure you have an indomitable hold ahead of 4.
Thing about it is, once again, both teams so good at focusing on multiple things at the same time. Drugsy, a massive double. Able to at least open up some space and thin out the defense around the train station, but Bink is called upon, and boy, does he ever respond. 173-176. Northwood turns the 4th hardpoint blue to open. Bay State looking to break to the middle of the map. They would love to get spawns, and with these 2 quick kills, there's an opportunity to work in towards the warehouse, but have they moved a little bit too slow? Radial still spawns into place, and Infinite has a chance to actually pinch this play from behind. It's just down to, do you find these eliminations fast enough? Rex on the way forward, trades out Bink, 1 more to grab, and that's going to be Infinite who drops a clean break for Bay State.
Yeah, fantastic break. They're able to at least deal with the pinch that ended up coming through from a little bit of a spawn out from Northwood. They find those kills in quick succession, like you said. Now Bay State, they're in. They're trying to set themselves up. With Northwood off the respawn, they set themselves up for an old pinch. The break, not as successful. Silly, trying to make a last-minute argument for it. Radio will take him down with a 2-piece.
That is important amounts of scrap time that come out. It keeps us essentially dead even. Northwood are first at the 200-point threshold. But as we look to what's to come up next, it's Bay State in control of the middle of the map. And potentially the opportunity just to rotate behind them. The P1, but a cheeky route comes out of Bink. He actually flips the spawns completely individually. Bay State's not going to realize this in time. A chance for Northwood to come back over and contest this hard point from the back. Opportunity for Bink to clear out the high ground. But Rex is able to get the double before he eventually drops. Hardpoint goes neutral, and Northwood a chance to try to get on in with a little bit of number pressure over the middle of the map.
Yeah, they're trying to win so many different battles while also trying to make sure that they can get themselves some time as well. Big shots coming through from Silly. Is able to find themselves 3 on this live, 27-28. And they're not only just thinking about the hardpoint, they're also thinking about the rotation towards new. You got Drugsy that's already over by the double stairs, and he's playing a quarter for it.
But is there enough members here to actually fully flip the spawns? Now maybe so, as Silly and Drugsy both get eliminations. Yeah, there's the flip. 205-218. Infinite from inside the hill, working with his longtime duo of Bink to try to salvage some sort of a hold from the front. The hardpoint's not even active yet, by the way. Every kill could be a good kill here for Northwood. Shots for Infinite, decent onto Drugsy, but he gets flat out overwhelmed. Fame can only get 1 trade, and Bay State in a prime position to lock down a hold to take map 1.
And they don't have to push out of this either. They can just hold these angles. They know that Northwood have to be able to break inside this hard point, and it's all going to come through from the pillar side. Nobody's going to be flanking around from the back.
Nate's littering the front. It's just by sheer numbers and force that Northwood are trying to extend the map, but nothing comes through. Infinite on the backside. They get a bit of a spot fit, but can he actually do enough to open up the hill itself? A double for Infinite. That might be a lifeline. Drugsy on 5, though, has absolutely shut down the reinforcements, forcing Pink to get on in. Pistol in hand, nothing there. Radial for the 1v1. He's able to stand tall for just a small moment, but Bay State quick to reinforce from the front. 2:48 on the clock. The last member will fall, and Bay State strikes first on Berlin Hardpoint.
Woo, man, I gotta say, that was competitive to say the least. We had about 4 different lead swaps coming all the way through the entirety of that map number 1, but nonetheless, when it came down to it, we were reading it the entire time. We saw what Bay State were looking to do, and man, did they execute that plan damn near flawlessly. To be able to find themselves on the opposite side of what you would prefer from 5 going in towards 1. You have one player of Drugsy that found the timing to be able to get past Statue, get up through the double stairs, play that corner outside of lobby that we all hate in rank play, and then is able to find themselves 2 kills. That coordinates so well with Silly coming through the front side of Train that it was a full-on break. Coming through the spawn flip as well. They let that P5 hardpoint become neutral for about 15 seconds just to make that play happen, to set themselves up on 1 to be able to win that map.
Out of all the star-studded blaster that we just built up, it really was Drugsy who really set the tone at a couple of the key routes. He goes 32 and 23.
Man.
Nearly top damage, as you mentioned, him working with Silly on a lot of those plays. He was right behind him at 32 and 30 with 3,300 total. And how about Fame? My God, 3,700 damage nearly. Still went 25 and 32 with 11 total assists. The dude was all over the map, but it really, for me, comes down to the routes that Drugsy was hitting.
Yep.
And the simple fact that there were too many times that we said the words, Northwood is required to do X, Y, and Z. Too many moments where they were just really just kind of on the back foot for too long, not able to kind of get scrappy when they needed a 50-50 some hard points, and at least they were able to put together some sort of a response, but you can only play from the back foot for so long before Bay State's going to absolutely take over.
Yeah, I mean, it's the P1s. You really do feel like it coming away from Bay State. To see even off the rip, the first hard point, even on the favorite side of the map, Bay State were able to walk away with a commanding amount of points that we had to then look at Northwood in their P3 holds. That's what really kept them in this game through the sets of hard points that we did play out for ourselves, and also able to keep it contested, flipped out the lead every so often, but it was really that lead that was built over for Bay State, all off those P1 hard points through the beginning of the sets.
So now we go to Desert Siege, and the Search and Destroy game mode that was the thorn in the side for Northwood Esports when these two teams had met during Stage 2. In particular, you really want to kind of add a little bit insult to injury or the Legos to step foot on with bare feet. The 1v3 that Silly was talking about at the beginning of this matchup happened right here. And the biggest thing that we can really kind of turn 1-for-1 into is Northwood just has to be better with the opening engagements and sustaining numbers when they get them.
Yes, they do. Yeah, the cohesion needs to absolutely be there. And to be completely candid with everybody watching at home, Northwood were very open with saying how unpracticed they were going in towards that best-of-5 series. It's inexcusable. You know that you're going to be going up against the #1 team, ranked here in the CCL of Bay State. You have played them plenty of times before. There should have been VOD to study. You should be more than prepared to be able to take it to Bay State. Here's your head-to-head, though. 2 players you definitely want to be on the lookout for. I could not gas up Phantoms enough, but Radio has been so good in the Search and Destroys throughout the entirety of this weekend, Alan. His first blood ratio, if he gets inside of those engagements, he's winning them 75% of the time. You need Radio's flexibility to truly come through on a map like DC.
And for me, the first place I'm looking for Radial to really kind of take an advantage is in mid-university through Palace and just try to win the middle of the map, because looking back and rewatching some of that Desert Siege, you know, one of the things we come to expect is that obviously the long-range battles, whether it's by ARs or snipers towards dunes, could create natural advantages if you're feeling frisk enough to take those fights. But lately, especially for a lot of these teams and players that find themselves on challengers rosters at the highest level, a lot of the maps of Desert Siege that we see are determined by who controls that mid-map rotational spot. So I think for Radial, the biggest thing is if that's going to be the focus point of getting and playing over the middle of the map, you have to be really successful off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the opposite side, you got to deal with Phantoms, right? I mean, we have seen Phantoms do some pretty funny things on this map when it comes down to being able to find those first bloods. 83% of the time that Phantoms gets himself in a first blood engagement, he wins it. And you'd have to already assume, and you'd be right to assume, that Phantoms is doing that mostly with an AR. What you can do along with that, we have seen come through continuously on a map like Desert Siege, even outside of the CCL for Phantoms, the commanding presence that Phantoms does have, mostly over by that B lane, down by the sand dunes, is absolutely sublime.
We'll find out where exactly the teams are going to prefer to take these opening battles, because that very well may be our determining factor of who takes this map number 2. Biggest thing for Northwood is, hey, you've been really good so far throughout your run in the upper bracket to get to this year's finals in every single series and every single mode. I mean, the Search and Destroys really haven't really been too close. On the opposite side, kind of trying to take a eyesight evaluation of this Bay State roster, it did take them 10 rounds to get through Ottawa when they had played earlier on yesterday. So who knows? It's hard to really kind of use that as a set-in-stone kind of mentality as you consider both these two squads, but yeah, you're a star student of Timmy Phantoms. You have to feel like if he can continue to find success in those first blood engagements outside towards dunes, that'll lead to a major advantage that Bay State's going to want to use every round.
Yeah, because it's going to start bottlenecking Northwood into having to play for University continuously, or having to go all in over by the A lane, both defensively and offensively, of course. Unless you can deal with Phantoms, which they were unable to do, going back into the Stage 2 matchup between these two teams, they were just unable to find any sort of bit of success in the middle of the map over by the A lane because Phantoms was locking down over by the dunes.
All right, we'll see how it all unfolds. That's the full setup for it. Now it just comes down to, will there actually be execution through it? It's going to be Phantoms towards the dune side. Also sounds like Rex has pulled out a Car 98, took an opening shot, as Fame may have been scouted on the cross. So as far as the information game is concerned for Bay State on this offense, they should feel very confident that this plant at B should be safe.
Players inside of University. Fame, seeing ankles. I thought he was going to be able to get that kill. Had a couple of good hit markers. Rex could not get that kill. So all players still alive. And even Druxy, after planting the bomb, reads the two inside of University.
That's fine. Those are decent trades. Even though it's going to be a first blood for Druxy, the first blood engagement favors Northwood. But how do you get through this long angle that's being watched by Phantoms? Tags come out. Radial keeps his life. Now the help can come through by way of team shots. Silly needs to come to assist, and as he does, it's Fame who immediately takes him out of the picture. On the defuse now is Radial. Phantoms doing as much damage as he possibly can, but the help is just too good. Yeah, that retake play for Northwood, knowing that you have some players caught out towards dunes, overwhelm the middle of the map, shut down the post plant before it can really get set up. Love that.
It's legitimately just that. It's finding any sort of opening to overwhelm with your numbers. Getting that trade on a Druxy was massive, but then you immediately turn that into presence that can come back through, knowing that you still had all 4 players alive on one specific lane. You knew that Bay State, as far as a post plane is concerned, had to watch a multitude of angles because, hey, it's Desert Siege. Anybody could be flanking across that A lane unless you're careful. Northwood have a brilliant retake. Now here comes their offense.
Opening pre-fire out of Phantoms. Actually does get a couple of hit markers onto Fame, who was a little bit late to the gunfight. Now a chance to fight back. Not going to connect. Radial, automaton in hand. You talked about his ability to be flexible, showcasing it here early. Drugsy SMG through the side doors. Coming through, actually is able to catch Radial with the stun out, but the hip fire still connects. And in the same breath, it was Pink who secured first blood. Phantoms could do absolutely nothing, and Northwood over the top of the B site, asserting their foot over towards the dunes.
Well, like Radial laughing at it. That post-plant situation was beautiful. They are able to do a Day 1 strategy of Desert Sea Search and Destroy. They get that bomb down at B so darn quickly. The middle of the map was being controlled as well. I mean, Radial even mid-stun toss was still able to track fully with the hip fire of the automaton. Again, flexibility is the name of the game, and Radial is absolutely coming to showcase that. 2 players on 2, Fame still on a 3.
Phantom still watching over towards Doom, but the rest of the offense for the Bulldogs focused on the A site. Once again, mid-map completely forfeited by Bay State, giving it over to Northwood voluntarily. Phantom still, as he rotates back, though, makes sure that Radial can do nothing from inside the least of what it looked to be the front floor. That may create an opening. Thing about this is Bink is still in a great spot defensively for Northwood to try to deny this by playing backside trains.
Phantom's making sure that the flank still stays secure. Fame actually not deciding to hit that. Will then come to join their comrades. But this is a really good call for Northwood. You don't need to over-aggress. Tries to get some information. Rex will take down Bink 2v4.
And you know that with Radial not in mid, your ability to re-wrap back over to B actually could stretch this defense out, but Infinite, who takes place top floor, does keep this still doable. 2v4 now to a 2v3. Bomb planning at B. And you should know if you're Northwood that you've got Rex isolated. Druxy's coming back to the play, and Infinite gets a read on it. Oh, so now all of a sudden, both the Bulldog members are completely on opposite side of the maps. But they're having a hard time finding number 4, and Rex eventually Infinite can secure the kill, but it took a lot of time. And with Phantoms off-screen taking down the other, now it's just down to how do you even find him? And Phantom's going to get the information. First, the shots come out, and oh goodness, the gunfight got a little tight, but nonetheless, the cheeky positioning out of Phantom secures the round.
Those are Phantom's dunes. I'm telling you right now. This guy loves to play this line of sight. The multitude of line of sights that you do have over by the B dunes. Even when they came back through and they found that first blood inside University on Radial, immediately just shifts all of their focus to make sure that not only the flank was being secured, but the potential for them to fully wrap over towards B when the bomb itself was damn near close to being planted at A. Wonderfully played out from Phantoms to be able to keep that play alive.
Oh, watch this quick hit coming out of Northwood. It's SMGs in hands, not just for Infinite, but also for Radial as they move quickly through the bottom floor. Drugsy on the rotation. You know he wants to try to reach out this University area, but he needs to be very careful about this with Silly already dropping. So nades will be the call defensively. Aggressive play through. Radial already on the backside will deny any play up top of the tower. Phantom's a little bit stuck in between the trains, and, well, that might be enough. The quick hit call for Northwood through mid-map may have been enough. Drugsy with the 1v4 in front of him.
As well to find the first, but can you truly fish out these 3 kills, plus allocate 7.5 seconds for the defuse? Most would argue no. I'm going to clear away University. There is one player up here on the balcony. Just nimble, like a cat. I don't know how Kev was doing that. Well, fun, one from behind. But there's still not enough time. That's your immediate adversary if you are Drugsy. Finding kills, shutting down streaks is one thing, but Northwood, as you were saying, just a very fast and aggressive hit. Much like how we saw it over by B, they could also get it done over at A.
All right, a little tempo change coming out of Northwood. You kind of feel like they want Bay State to play Northwood style of search. It's worked out for the most part. Really, outside of Phantoms and his 3 kills in the previous round, it's been pretty convincing in the opening engagement so far for the Timberwolves. So, in my mind, the chess game now turns to what do you do if you're Bay State? You kind of have to make at least some sort of an adjustment, and if I'm being completely candid, you can't just rely on Phantoms to kind of secure top time dudes. You need to get some extra significant pressure over to the middle of the map if you want to be able to help them, and how about it? Drugsy with the bomb will find first blood, but the quick trade from Radial as he gets out keeps us at 3v3.
You should be more than aware. Phantoms already threw some shots over towards Fame. So they're going to move this focus over towards A. See if anybody's pushing through, because Rex has done this previously, where he's just going to sit over and adjacent to the AS and D. But you don't have to make a move if you're Northwood. You just play for the retake in this 3v3.
Yeah, this is really on to Bay State to have to find the angle first. Radial will poke his head. Rex gets the information, but that's mutual. And, of course, Rex is very aware that he's not just under threat deep, but there could be a challenger through mid-map. Oh, but he still is able to take down Radial at range. A massive opening. And no cuteness out of Bay State this time. Use your numbers, use your positioning, get this bomb down at A. But Northwood quick on the rotation, trying to once again stop the post line from coming through. Phantom's tagged up. Nades trying to follow off of it, but no, it will not confirm a kill, and the bomb gets planted.
How do you try to retake this? They're going to try to set up a pinch. Silly drop down to 6 HP. Fame's going to take him down, 2v2. And Big might have just found some timing if they turn to the left, but does not get it indeed. Needs this trade to come through and needs to try to fly to be able to take down Phantoms on this A lane.
For the 1v2, Phantoms is just patient off the cross, though, knowing that it had to be the first move from Northwood looking for the defuse. And the call works out. The shots land. And Bay State keep us real tight throughout this search. It really doesn't come off of a significant adjustment. It really just comes down to the 1v1 when on a Radial deep.
Yep. That's absolutely right. Because, I mean, if you are Radial, clearly even eliminating Drugsy over by the stairs was not good enough information that they did take down their OBJ player, right? So they did not immediately know that the bomb had not been at least moved over towards A. So you got to check it, at least throw the shoulder. Maybe you can find the kill. Just does not come to B. Still 1-round lead here for the Timberwolves.
A little bit more speed still coming out of Northwood. Nades over the top, trying to find Phantoms deep. Pushes him off his initial angle and repositions him. That gets an opportunity to try to get this bomb on. And yeah, Infinite's going to try to stick for this, but Phantoms reads it. The trade is there. Radial's going to immediately step foot, collect the bomb. Look to maybe try to finish off where his teammate had left off. They want to isolate Silly with those long-range shots, and it's well found. Silly now 0-6. And it's Rex for a 1v3, needing the defuse as well.
He's being pinched around from behind.
They'd see enough.
Yeah, nobody saw anybody. Rex does find one for Fame. Okay, expect the flank. What a read from Dylan.
Thing about it is he's already defaulted to going over to the pistol, and it was almost fisticuffs to determine it. That is such a big read, though, from Radio.
Yeah.
First and foremost, to know that you can pick up your teammate after the initial first blood comes out of Phantoms, then collect the bomb, and then say, oh, wait, Silly's up top and I have a free angle on him, too? That's just really big heads-up play from Chris.
Flexibility is the name of the game. Radio is acing it right now. Automaton holding longer lines of sight defensively. Can also get aggressive with the SMG inside of University. It's these aggressive offensive hits, man, for Northwood. He's just constantly giving them round after round. Now for Bay State, you need an answer here. You do not want to be going down 2-5.
And how about this? Northwood's going to stack the box at A. Nades are coming through for both sides, and it's actually going to force everyone to kind of respect the play and reset just a touch. So will this possibly be determined by what happens on rotation here? And I'm not just saying it from one team's perspective or the other. It's kind of for both teams because you can't just, flood with all 6 members sitting on top of A. Northwood able to get into a position that they want first, but Bay State are not giving up on their attempts over towards A as of yet.
I love this out of Northwood as well. I mean, you don't concede the space, but you give up the 3 stack because they weren't just straight running at you. So you go towards a more standardized setup, make sure the Radio might be able to pull something through this wall. It'd be tight. On the opposite side is Drugsy with that bomb, slowly rotating over towards B.
With 38 seconds in the setup defensively that you want, you just have to play point of contact. An infinite scene Rex. Does he also see Silly on the cross? Maybe. Hard to say for sure. Drugsy with the bomb was initially taking a step towards B, but he's got to come back and rejoin his teammates. Rex is going to be pushed off. But Silly is right there on the cross. He was not checked as he moved to the outside, and Rex still keeps his life and finds a kill. But Beak is in a good position maybe to shut this down. Gets the first, tries to reset, knows that Rex is nearby. The pistol works out for the second, tries to get the MP40 to turn it into an immaculate 3-piece, but it doesn't quite work out. So now it's a 1v1. Not enough time for a plant, and Fame will hold his ground.
Wow.
What an amazing play out of Northwood.
Wow. I mean, this also goes back to what we were seeing out of Bink yesterday. I mean, he's been on a goose egg for such a long time. Not that he is right here. That's his 8th kill that he just broke cameras with. It's just little things like that that just always makes you remember just how nasty Bink is with these timings, man. Just being able to fish out that second kill, reset it as well, switch to the pistol. Insanity. But you really got to tip it almost that Bay State almost got away with that round. Denying the B push was Fame to be able to find that kill on the Phantoms. They had to rotate back over towards A, knowing that's
Northwood quickly over towards A. This is going to be met this time by Bay State. Not only with the initial look, but this is a double SMG setup, I believe, with Silly helping out towards mid-palace. Infinite not dissuaded, though. Will play for the plant. And look at Bink. He just wants to make sure that there is at least some sort of a clutch-up position. He's not even going to get involved in any form. Just getting on the opposite side of the map completely. But can Bay State punish with only these 2 members left defensively over the top of the previous plan? Silly already taking the deep route. Takes down Infinite, no problem. Phantom's the second, so now it's on to Bink. Once again, they would need 3. Doesn't check his right. Phantom is right next to him. Still able to find him. Tries to avoid the shots, but can't quite get under cover, and Bay State extend the map.
Yeah, that was honestly a really, really good answer. As far as an aggressive hit is concerned, they thought that they could just get commanding presence over by the A lane, and just longer lines of sight being held by Bay State. They lock down all of those kills. No middle of the map antics to speak of, not this time around. But is it just a little bit too late for Bay State to try to climb all the way back? It's going to have to be read after read. Just making sure that they are just catching Northwood. Again, a lot of these rounds have gone their way by being able to find these very aggressive timings and angles at the very early stages and answering back for what Bay State have been bringing to the beginning of each round.
A lot of work to be done here for Bay State. You can feel like they're starting to get at least some sort of a read on what Northwood wants to do, and they're putting together some pretty solid solutions to the problems. This time it's just Infinite who's moving quickly, and oh my goodness, he doesn't just get one, he forces the second. And it's just a cheeky piece of timing. The first time we've seen anyone get aggressive through double doors. And now Bay State have no bomb in a 2v4 that they have to win.
You need one of these picks to come all the way through. You see who's alive. Rex has a sniper, Silly with an AR. Time is at least big enough for you to maybe try to fish out these timings. But Northwood, they're going to give you absolutely nothing. Some shots come through from Fame, but that's about all you're going to get.
Yep. Nobody peeks here. And with a sniper automaton combination for the last 2, you need to find a key gunfight win to open things up. And Infinite's playing a corner with an MP40. Huge advantage for him. He's also got a little bit of help. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. Give him the old ace. Infinite wants it. Gets naded up a little bit by a delayed nade that came out of the previous player he found. And Rex will at least extend his life. Sees Fame. Wants the left hand.
Huh? Well then.
I mean, I didn't see a hit marker, but whatever. 6-3.
That bullet had a magnet in it. That was, yeah, very interesting ending there. I really thought that Rex was almost going to be able to get that kill with the sniper, but all right. So anyway, yeah, it was honestly you really got to tip it up to what Northwood were bringing to the table. Again, this was one thing that we were kind of framing up going into the Desert Siege. Obviously, they allow it to come through, so they had to have been prepared. What was that most preparation that was coming through? Was the aggression, but it was tempered aggression coming through from Northwood. It's like you called there at the end. That was the only time that somebody actually ran straight through double doors and Infinite called the bluff, was able to find themselves 3. But even more than that, the commanding presence that Radio was able to have across the entirety of the map was absolutely massive. It set up so many different opportunities for Bink to be able to go 11-4, to be able to find these players trying to cross, to be able to chase out these trades. Bay State had no answer to the fundamental setups that Northwood brought today.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, too, just to kind of really, you know, put a kind of synopsis over this map number 2, as much as the First Bloods category is essentially dead even, the ability for Northwood to trade out when they had lost the First Blood in 1-for-2 fashion was very significant. And I think that's the biggest difference maker. You know, you go back to what had happened the first time these two teams had met playing over this map. Numbers advantages were constantly in favor of Bay State, or pardon me, constantly in favor of Northwood, but never able to finish off those advantages. This time around, they were able to make sure that the numbers were at least always even, or if they found numerical advantages by converting off of good first blood trades, and this time they weren't giving away advantages that they were able to really work hard for in those first 30 seconds. So great adjustments overall when it comes to looking to the first time these two plays, now into the second. It gets us to a 1-1 count. It went 5 the first time. We'll see how it goes this time around. The control coming up next, but right after the break. Welcome back from the break. A 1-1 map count affair with the first opening hardpoint being about a 40-point gap. Bay State taking the edge to the Berlin hardpoint. It's the search and destroy from Northwood, though, that gets a lot of our credit early on to this best-of-5 series. They take a 6-3 win on Desert Siege, which brings us now to a Berlin control. And, I mean, statistically speaking, over the course of the entirety of this year, both of these two teams have been near immaculate overall when it comes to the numbers that we've pulled. The biggest kind of impressive statistic, though, as far as the team is concerned, is the fact that Northwood, when they play control, barely give away a round every time they play a control on any map.
Yeah, on any map. It doesn't even matter the map. It's just the mode that is just so stellar for this Northwood roster, and that's been a consistency throughout the entirety of the year. 100% win rate comparatively to Bay State just yesterday. They lost that one map to Ottawa, which was a Kavutu control. And then you also ended up losing to St. Edwards yesterday as well, which was 3-1 on control at also on a control. So now we take a look at Northwood as far as what their control is offered here on LAN. Average opponent score, Alan, that's a interesting number.
The LAN results match the regular season results when it comes to the dominance that's been executed by this Northwood team in map number 3. And, you know, it's really odd in a certain way because a lot of the conversations that are had around, you know, which team has the biggest opportunities depending on which modes they're great at. And historically speaking, over the course of the last handful of years, the teams that are best at map 3 typically are the teams that have the best chance at winning a championship. The thing about the difference in this particular event, in this tournament, I would say, is the fact that we have got a lot of really solid respawn teams just based on the stats between their hard points and their controls. But it's been differences in the search and destroy category that have really started to crop up as maybe being indications of who holds advantages. But for this control in particular, it's not just the fact that you've got two star-studded teams. You've got two incredible players on either side that have been the big catalysts for success so far in LAN. Fame on one side with a 1.34 overall KD, but Silly, you know, again, World War II games seem to speak to him. He's still carrying a really solid 1.0 as one of the biggest kind of entry players for Bay State when it comes to their control game mode.
Yep, both sitting around 75% non-traded kill percentages. want to talk about two players as far as what Vanguard is concerned all year long throughout Challengers, even through the CCL, how good they have been against other top teams to be able to keep their life. It does speak volumes on any control map when you do have any AR or flex, whatever is ended up coming to the table. Whatever Silly is playing out, third AR, maybe an SMG as well. Same could be said for Fame. The amount of ability for them to be able to play out their life and really just be that thorn in the side for the enemy team, that when they think that they truly have dealt with all of the resources from the enemy team, you got to deal with one of these players, both Silly and Fame, can absolutely turn the tides for any fight, even when you think it's over.
The biggest thing for me is when you look at those numbers, as much as I think a lot of the categories lean towards Fame, the overall average damage per map that Silly's putting together is near 5K. So even though he's only holding 1.0 KD, he's all over the map, and he's creating a lot of opportunity for his teammates to capitalize on easy kills. And if there were ever to be a recipe for success on offense, it's that. It's trying to find easy kills. So we'll see if that maybe is a indication of how this particular map or mode will go. And well, with that, a key swing map overall. And it's going to be the side of Bay State to get us going here at Orby, I guess. It's not the offense. And of course, we've enjoyed our time here at Belong at the gaming arenas. So a massive thank you to those guys as we get ready to go with a couple of really solid opening kills for Bay State over towards B in particular.
Yep. 3 players strong going on over towards that B lane, but you also had Silly just buying a lot of time, found 2 kills over inside of the train station. That'll already be the first segment of progression just secured.
These are just convincing eliminations in and around not just the zone, but also just kind of through the middle of the map, making life hard for Northwood to even consider a retake over the B zone. Second tick is going to be locked in as Bink gets a double to contest the further progress. And maybe an opportunity if Bink can actually slip the net to put some pressure on the spawns, but no such antics will occur. And for the most part, Northwood just want to make sure that they get a defense, at least a solid look at an open defense towards A. That's likely going to lead to a concession of a 60 seconds at B.
There's no reason to try to throw more lives away over at B. I mean, you can see Northwood are already down by a handful of lives. You just play for the exits. Maybe you find in a little opening radial. A little bit too greedy, in my opinion, because now the flank has opened up a little bit. Phantom Struxy trying to come to the backside of the lobby.
And radial is not going to be recognizing that the significant hit from Bay State is largely coming over the backside of fire. Good help out of the ARs, though, to clear out a lot of this. Last 1v1 off screen was won by Radial, so the defense right back into commanding control, not just on A, but more importantly, on every single angle as Bay State tries to exit their spawn.
You can see where Infinite's positioned on the map as well. Those at home watching, that forces all of Bay State to spawn over by water, so they're basically kind of have to hit this a little bit more one-dimensionally, or they can try to deal with Infinite down low. Even off screen, that goes through. Druxy cannot find the kill. So all Bay State is still trapped on their side of the map for the time being.
Time has become dwindled significantly since the opening 60 seconds was converted. A couple of good kills leads to an exit for Bay State out of their spawns, but there's still so many obstacles in their way before they could even consider a stack or even a look at A. So advantage towards Northwood defensively at the moment, but it is being tested, and more kills around the back actually open the door completely. Bink now forced to have to put together a solo defense, and as he gets one, he's not quite able to step away from the second. The good news is the Timberwolves are here trying to recontest from the back, but they have not read Silly playing through double stairs. Information as he throws a shoulder, but the kill still capitalized by Northwood as they reset up with only 10 lives to play for either side.
35 seconds. You would truly feel like this is the last possible attempt for Bay State to maybe try to make a play happen. Going to be spawning a little bit closer. Druxy is just playing in this corner, maybe trying to catch a timing on a player. Won't be able to find anything. Needs to make this play happen because they have to coordinate with Rex on the flank.
Now, the biggest thing about this, though, is that Bink is also hitting a bit of a flank of his own, so it stops the Bay State offense from being able to convert on those pinches. And now we're down to the last 13 seconds, and the last chance will likely be made by Dylan. Good opener. Creates a bit of pressure on this defense, and wait a second, Phantom's on this long flank is going to catch some timing here, but Bink, just on the last split second, gets the gun up, fires back, and it's a final 4-for-1 exchange favoring the defense as Northwood locked down a 100% completely.
Yeah, that was really, really well played when you're thinking about it. I mean, there was only like maybe one scary moment when, obviously, the beginning it was kind of terrifying with the way that Bay State were showing a very demanding presence throughout the entirety of the map. We're at Radial overextending, trying to get inside of that A zone, or the B zone, excuse me. Almost opened up a flank opportunity for Bay State, but Northwood, they chalked it at the right time, set themselves up wonderfully, and they shaved off that clock. Just ever so wonderfully.
3-1 defensive split for Bay State. Drugsy the only defender over towards B. He's already been kind of pushed back and figured out. So now it's really on the Bay State. You've got to get here through the train station. And Radio's in a great spot to delay that defensive assistance. So first tick of progress will be locked in really without any contest. Infinite pretty much just solo capped that while the rest of his teammates continue to create space around the zone. Next defensive attempt for reclamation is by way of Phantoms and Rex, and the familial duo will have a chance to maybe look at this, but it's going to be hard-pressed as Phantoms is the only one left, and he's just going to give it up.
Yep, just trying to play for some exits. Does well to find one. Oh, but the timing. It's about to occur. Yes, you do end up having Rex all the way down low. It's going to force everybody to spawn up over by water, but the player to really be on the weary about will be Radio. Silly does well. He does find two, but Radio can still cause some damage in the back.
Yeah, very quick isolation, making sure there is no craziness to occur through fire. Leads to now defensive advantages over the middle of the map. Bay making his way to top third. Silly very aware of this. His teammates are actually already keeping him at bay, and actually more damage is going to be red, as Northwood has already started to make a play over towards train station. Rex there to follow up on the damage from Silly. Again, we talked about it. He's always one of those guys that's first one forward, always finding a lot of intel and a lot of damage. He makes life easy for his teammates, such is the case once more as Rex and Phantoms are really starting to light things up.
We got double steps, trying to put themselves maybe in a situation where they might be able to coordinate a pinch. We'll have some help over here, but
man,
every single time that Radio has tried to get on the backside of lobby, it is red and it is dealt with. Bay State on this A-zone defense looking just as dominant as Northwood were.
It's really on both sides. The reads that we saw from Bink in the first round overall in this Berlin control, and now the same for Rex and Phantoms. It's just like they've got a sixth sense for when these pinches are coming through timing-wise. It's giving a really good chance to deny plays before they even happen. So as kind of static as it's felt offensively for both of these two teams, a lot of the reason is just simply due to the fact that the defense are reading these timings on these pinches once again. Silly turns at the exact right moment to take down Bink, and Northwood never have a chance to even hit the go button to hit over towards A.
Yeah. Down by 3 lives as well. Look at the setup that's finally starting to manifest itself. Infinite is able to at least stay alive inside of P3, and they have some help towards the back.
This is absolutely an opportunity. Clock will stop, 12v11. Drugsy coming back over towards train station. A couple of shots in, and oh my, how do they make this work out? Phantoms was caught in no man's land all the way back towards the train yard. He delayed any Northwood reinforcements for hitting A with any sort of significance, and Drugsy keeps his life for a double. Nade goes out, that'll tag up Big just a touch. And with 13 seconds to play, here is the last attempt for Northwood. And it's got to be by way of Radial, who's been very unsuccessful on finding an entry. That will continue to be the case. Infinite, maybe a desperate attempt to touch foot, and he will at least find one elimination, but he can't get there in time to delay the clock and give his team a chance.
Yep. I mean, I think you said it best right there, is that Radial was always that player that was putting himself in a position trying to get those initiating gunfights to be able to come and give themselves a numbers advantage for Northwood, but you really feel like there towards the end, after the B-zone had been fully secured for Northwood, that every single time Radial was in a position to find that opening gunfight, just was not winning it. And that's nothing to say about Chris. It's just how well Bay State were reading those flanks continuously. Those timings were executed so well for Bay State to understand that Northwood were trying to set up flanks continuously.
So back to neutral through the first 2 rounds. Both teams only finding success over towards mailroom. That will be the designed attempt for Bay State on their second offensive attempt. The 3-1 split once again with Silly watching any crossing angles up the middle of the map, and that will be good for first blood. Also, with a couple of members nearby, the first tick of progress looks like it will likely be lost, and how about it? Drugsy once again stopping Radial from finding an entry, this time from the defensive point of view. And that's not just the first tick of progress gone. Northwood's going to be hard-pressed to get anything put together to deny this second either.
Well, Bing thought that he was going to be able to find the timing to be able to get all the way in towards the back to coordinate this pinch, but still trying to stop this segment from coming through is Radial. Does not have all the help in the world, and even off-screen as well, Drugsy is making a forward play happen inside of the lobby. Now, Radial does find that 1 kill, so that's going to buy a lot more time for Northwood to get further set up.
As Radial drops, the stack will not be needed. And an extra 60 seconds will be put onto the clock, and the antics out of Northwood's defense trying to play forward have also been shut down. So a significant life lead really starting to make itself known. 25-20, favoring Bay State's offense. Silly on 3 is already in the site. He's going to have help. Rex is here to try to stack this. The first tick of progress just about to go. Defense trying to get there to contest, but they're not there quite in time. The follow-up eliminations, though, are decent enough. Last one left to deal with is Drugsy, and it will be big to find the kill. But an extra tick of progress has been locked in for the first time today for Bay State.
That push was about to be catastrophic for Northwood. Drugsy also was able to find one on the flank, and they really set themselves up wonderfully. That Northwood were lucky enough that they were able to find the gunfights from the front. Being trying to play a little bit further forward will be cut down. Rex also finds Infinite, so now again, Northwood trying to play forward again. They're not winning the gunfights.
There's no second line of defense here either. It's going to have to come right off a spawn, but Radial creates an opening by finding a 1v1 through the middle of the map. So now he can try to play off of a pinch while the rest of his teammates are hitting from the front. Rex cannot stay alive. Radial making sure that the side door stays in possession of Northwood's defense, and he takes down another opportunity for Bay State, but this time squandered off of a good play from Radial.
One player on the flank now is Phantoms. Maybe trying to find a pick. Split up the defensive numbers because Northwood are reeling when it comes down to the lives. They're down by a whole set of respawns. Somehow Infinite's able to read it. He's able to take down Phantoms on the flank. And even the forward play, again, that's happening over inside a train station is not coming up all aces for Northwood, but they're shaving off so much time from this clock.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just in this kind of system of Northwood forcing individual gunfights defensively through the middle of the map that have kind of kept Bay State in a position where they really can't even secure trades, let alone double hits. But this is an opportunity with Silly clearing the middle of the map, plus a help from Phantoms from the front. All 4 will fall. Fame able to get 1. That'll be able to help stop a stack from coming through. But can you actually get the defense in place in time to stop the second tick of progress from coming in? Rex able to take down Fame means that there's only 3 Northwood defenders that are here, but that might be all that they need. Silly on 4 in a row, wants to take down more, gets the kill on the Infinite, but Bink and Fame still stop the second tick of progress, but it's down to a 9v4. Lives are a problem for Northwood. You need to kill off more clock, because honestly speaking, the 4 lives are not enough to get through this last 35 seconds.
And you can't afford to play forward. You can see all of Northwood, they're essentially playing this like a search and destroy. They have to play so far back. You have one player that's at least committing to watch the entire flank, but Bay State can just play the trade game.
The thing about this is Northwood cannot search for information. They have to react. Radial playing a close corner. Does get red. Drugsy for the elimination. But Fade gets the double on the backside. Can he get more than this? Rex is hindered. Bake's still firing back. 11 seconds on the clock. It's a 6v2. The kills from Infinite are solid. Fame is still here with nades off the respawn. It's going to be hard pressed to get anybody here in time. Drugsy sprinting. His Nikes are on. But Fame clutches up for Northwood against the odds. And most importantly, against the numbers.
Wow. Numerically, mathematically, should have been impossible. Bay State should have absolutely been able to find those kills, especially after dealing with Radial down low. But Fame, what a massive moment for Kev. Able to at least lock down those initial 2, found the trade after Radial died, and then Infinite comes right back in and picks up where Fame started off, being able to find those kills, shaving away the clock, because it really did feel like everything was in the favor for Bay State to be able to win that offensive round. Now Northwood continue to keep their control streak alive for the time being, but looking to make an offensive round push. Going to put 3 players strong over towards B, leaving 1 behind to watch the exit from A.
And the biggest thing about this, if you want to marginalize the advantages, it can't just be B. You have to also get at least 1 tick of progress at A. And the start is not great for Northwood. First 3 lives will fall. Were they playing maybe a little bit too cute for Fame on 4, looking for streaks? The answer very well may be yes, because no one has dropped yet for the Bulldogs. 1 tick of progress was locked, but Northwood now has to fight under their spawn to even try to extend this clock any further.
And they're so trapped over here as well. They have to play this very slow, but Bink, the snap that was. Going to be able to at least find themselves 1 combined for a couple there with Northwood, but you still have to worry about 1 player that's over by the B lane. That's going to be Drugsy. He's just going to try to isolate himself inside the B zone, but luckily enough, he got Infinite trying to make a solo play, trying to create space.
Oh, wait.
Stop the clock.
Northwood, they actually want to follow up on this. Infinite gets 1. Big's here to help. Hold on. They actually are going to get the first tick of progress at A. Drugs is the only defender left alive, and he's not in a position to flank this. Second tick of progress now on the way. Drugsy opening with space from behind, but is this stack going to be good? It's a 3-man setup for Northwood. They're going to get the extra 60 seconds on A, plus they already confirmed 1 at B. We've got a neutral game as far as ticks are concerned, but a massive advantage positionally on the map as Northwood will have a much easier time getting in towards Mail.
They can still close it out here. Infinite's still finding a lot of ruckus over here in the middle of the street. He's also pulling so many players back because you need the surge for this. And you also have Bink's help over by the statue as well. This pinch will not be there in time as you do have Rex inside of the B zone to deny that second tick.
You do the incredulous part if you're Northwood. You cannot let this round go. You have to put it away right here, you feel like. Rex on the side stairs denied. Now an opportunity with Bink finding more kills through it to where you can get 2 players on. Second tick in, the third on the way. Silly's going to have to find a way in. He's tagged up by Infinite. Drugsy, the next one forward, not going to be contested in time. And what a massive play from Infinite and Bink to get things going over towards the more unorthodox site. And the commitment from Northwood to get there keeps their hopes and their dominance in control more than alive.
Woo! I gotta say, that was not easy for Northwood to be able to pull that one out. Not easy at all, considering the odds stacked against them. As you were saying, they were really trying to go all in, maybe try to get Fame some streaks. Maybe they just lost all the gunfights. Either way, the latter still happened. They still lost all the gunfights, and Bay State had all of their numbers still remaining after that opening rip had commenced. But then you were able to find that one kill to be able to get inside a train station. No further resistance because all of Bay State were over by that B lane. And then they were able to find presence. They were able to lock down, isolate, kill after kill over by double steps. And then the stack came through. Just beautiful sequence of events coming through from Northwood to be able to solidify that offensive round and the control.
The biggest thing about their, Bay State's dominance over Mailroom side was the simple point that they actually weren't able to control mid-map. It was all from streets.
Yeah.
So the ability for Northwood to spawn up and then make the decision of, ooh, I've got a route to help you at A. Yeah, really, really solid stuff. And a lot of it did come from the combination of Bink and Infinite in my mind. So many clutch moments throughout it. You still have a 23-19 out of Fame as well.
Yeah.
And there's no blemishes on the other side, by the way. Those are still great numbers across the board. It just came down to the difference maker being a key decision called out by Northwood.
That's what it always comes down to. And we talked about this yesterday, about this Northwood squad, on control specifically. That's what makes them so dangerous. Watching them play throughout the entirety of the year, watching them play here at CCL Finals on LAN here in Columbus, is that they are decisive. And when they make that decision, they execute all the way through. They make sure that they commit towards that play, and the confidence of these 4 players, if you've never met them in person, let me tell you, it is absolutely there. That commitment is strong.
And if you're not entertained by that Berlin control, have a second course. Bakaj Hardpoint to come up next. And as far as what we've seen on broadcast so far, neither of these teams had played this map yet. This was, at the beginning of our series, the one map, at least in my mind, that I looked at and said, this is the peculiar one in the series, because Berlin, Desert Seed Search and Destroy, and Tusken have been kind of core map picks for both teams. This is the one outlier. So what exactly is going to be the setup? Are we going to see kind of what SIU was trying to do, where you've got maybe a compositional mindset if we want to run 2 ARs in some instances? Or is it going to be more stylistically built off of the SMGs, which just found a lot of success in Berlin? Are we just going to try to overwhelm by speed? Those are the questions that we have to really look out for here in the first couple of the hills.
It needs to be reactionary, you would feel like. For these 8 players inside the lobby, I think that you do need to try to pull out the double AR when it is required. But you also have to be looking at certain individuals to be able to pop up when it is required when we're talking about rotations and holding from the front like on P3 and P2.
Sure, yeah.
You could very much so do that with 3 SMGs, and that's going to be, again, where the flexibility needs to come all the way through. I honestly do believe that if Druxy does not have a solid game on Bokaj, which we have seen them pop off on this map mode combination before, might actually end up seeing Bay State go down the lower bracket.
Look, Drugsy, if you want to really point the finger at him, he has been great in a couple of great moments overall, not just what we just saw off the Berlin control, but we talked about a lot of the key decision-making that happened on the Berlin hardpoint was by way of routes that Drugsy was able to hit.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think it's very appropriate that we kind of turned the spotlight closer towards him, even though by name he may not be the kind of highlighted star that a lot of people look to. I still think that the importance of his role on a map like Bakaj is going to be incremental to Bay State trying to get to map 5 in the first place. You're absolutely right.
I mean, if you're running the main SMG, you would think that this should be right at home for you, right? But the pacing also has to be there. The sequence of events, the cohesion for the team also all have to be there for this roster that technically on paper have about like 3 ARs to this game specifically.
Yep.
But the pacing we have seen from Bay State, not on this map specifically throughout this weekend, but we have seen it in the CCL online and some other OLTs, and hell, even through challengers with a lot of these players that we watch every single week. It just all has to be there. They have to make sure that they know that this can get mixy at a moment's notice, but they have to make sure that they don't get ahead of themselves, because if they try to overextend, then Radial is going to end up trying to find a flank, and then he's going to find a 4-piece, and Lord, I'm going to have nightmares.
Yeah, it's a lot of if-then situations, but I think that those are absolutely the key moments we need to keep our eyes on as we look to get in towards this Bakaj hardpoint. again, the loser of this matchup would then immediately turn around and have to play Ottawa. Whew. And the biggest thing, I think, when it comes to trying to get yourself a championship, the luxury of having a second best of 5 in favor of you coming out of the winner's bracket into the Grands is huge. It always has been over the course. We saw it happen throughout the Modern Warfare year. Concord taking the first best of 5. No such luck at the second. Same thing was kind of said between the Ottawa v. Ottawa battle last year. A lot of hijinks and hilarity can happen in that first best of 5. So having a bit of a cushion is huge towards trying to win the majority of this $25,000 prize pool and becoming the CCL Season 4 champs. We'll see how things go, though, because first and foremost, we got to get through this bocage.
Woo, it's going to get mixy. It's already hot back here, but it's going to get even hotter after this. Map number 4. And again, you really do feel like that the pace needs to be there. It was a little bit lackluster for Northwood. Starting off on that Berlin hardpoint cannot be the same instance coming into this map 4.
See how things go. Northwood looking to kind of zone off the exterior lanes while Radial just shoves it right down mid. Works out well for the first blood. Anna Reed as far as how exactly Bay State are setting up before this courtyard break. Decent eliminations to start. Decent snapper from Fame, but can only get 2 of the 3 required. 5 seconds of time for the Timberwolves, but Bay State starting to make some headway over through Barn.
Yeah, look at the way that they're playing throughout the map as well. They're making sure that nobody or came back for another challenge outside of the stalls. They wanted to make sure that they got Barn control first, but they lost a couple trades along the way. Now, Druxy is that player that's in the backside, needs to become a little bit more activated here as their teammates are losing every single gunfight, but Druxy holding the position, not showing face, actually incurred a spawn flip to come through.
Route man gets paid. Drugsy's going to flip the spawns and get the double. Bay State right back in for the brick. Sure, that's fine, but the more incredulous part of the conversation has to turn over towards Fields. Drugsy was so good fulfilling this role during Berlin, already setting the tone here in Bocage.
And he's still going on his second life, on a 3, tries to bust out the wall, but there's no Kool-Aid man. He will be finally traded out by Infinite, but look at the spawns as well. And even Fame might actually think that he was blocking the spawns, but it needs to be communicated where Bink just spawned up at. Fame goes down.
Wow.
So it will be the close-in spawns here for Bay State. They'll be able to reinforce his hardpoint unless Radio has anything to say about it.
The response from Northwood is great, but honestly speaking, the resilience out of Bay State to keep this heavily contested is still pretty incredible in its own right. Now Rex up top, SMG in hand, tries to get back over into Barn, not able to do so. And honestly speaking, for Fame, he stayed alive really nicely considering all the nades that are coming off this defensive spawn. Silly on the pinch will eventually get around the backside and turn this into a double in combination with Drugsy. But Infinite in the corner really wants to make sure that this last 12 seconds is hard pressed for Bay State to do too much with, and we're going to exit P2 with a dead even game. That's not a bad result for Northwood considering the circumstances.
No, they were able to keep that P2 contested for a decent amount of time. They were able to find the kills to be able to soak it up towards the game clock. Now we take a look at the rotation over towards 3. Look at the setup. You already have Bink down low over by L. He actually gets scattered out by Phantom. That's a big kill to be able to open up these lanes.
Oh, okay, here we go. Northwood with the favorable rotational timing, but the hold from the front not looking all that great. One more set of spawns still coming in favorably towards Northwood. All 4 members still a chance to fight this from the back, and the kills are coming through nicely. Infinite closing off the high ground. It's a full team wipe. Northwood look like they're about to be pushed out of spawn, out of grannies, but they're here for more.
They are absolutely going to always recontest those. It's just crazy how emphatic that retake truly was. Radio up to 10 and 6. Here comes another hit for the scrap time out from Bay State. Still 20 seconds left to play. Rex is going to be able to take down Infinite. That should be more than enough after Radio falls down. Rex now piecing together themselves a multi-kill, trying to find where the rest of these players are located at. The longer that Rex finesses, the more time Bay State can hold Northwood Epe.
Wow, these first 3 hard points. Oh, man. You want to talk about a paper-thin margin between these two. This is looking more like liquid paper margins between these two at the moment. I mean, these fight backs have been unbelievable from the teams that have to break. And now we turn that conversation immediately to Northwood's direction as Bay State set up into Barn first. But the kill's looking solid, and Fame goes prone. Completely bamboozled, Silly, and a chance to contest as we're still looking at a pretty even game. Oh, but the spawns are still looking good for Bay State. At least one member's going to spawn up. The rest of the team will be here, and Northwood are caught a bit off guard. Have to be able to find a response here on this setup if you want to get significant time.
Oh, Radio only able to find one. There's not immediate help. And a flank is also coming through. Rex is also able to come down over by the cut just behind the stables. And now you're going to be trapped. These last 2 players from Northwood are inside P4 short, but the other 2 players on the respawn need to fly across the map and help out their comrades.
Wow. A little bit of maybe bless up for Bay State. Getting another set of favorable spawns. Pushes Northwood right back out. Once again, Northwood happy to fight for the scrap time with just Fame finessing. Does well to contest a couple of extra seconds. And once more, we take a look up towards the scoreboard, and it's a dead even game. over towards River. Northwood here first, but will that actually even mean anything as Bay State's already looking for a player on the back? The opening exchange looking good for the Bulldogs. Just trying to find one more, and as Fame falls, there is still one more member. Wait a second, with Big spawning up, it's Northwood who's still going to spawn to the backside. So now all of a sudden the shoe's on the other foot as Bay State are a little bit caught off guard, and Northwood has a chance to try to overwhelm.
Yeah, now it's Northwood's turn. Bay State getting a taste of their own medicine, but Northwood still have to win this recontest, and all the angles are actually being held quite wonderfully. Phantoms inside the hard point is only able to find one. Radial there at least for the trade, but in the meantime,
Wow.
it's not good enough numbers until Big just puts Silly to rest to be able to get themselves back inside the hard point. Still 20 seconds left to fight over. You know Bay State's coming right back to this
And they're
hard point.
creating a little bit of space. Radial makes safe the play through topside road. Infinite gets a read that the next hit likely is going to come from the middle of the map as he made a play over towards the barnyard area. So Bay State, just as good as Northwood was trying to finesse from the front on the last hard point, they do the same here. 21 and 14 through one rotation to Hills for Radial on 3 in a row.
Jeez.
Just disgusting numbers being put together. Infinite doing to Drugsy what Drugsy did to him, just hitting the routes. I mean, it's punch for punch right now.
Who's going to buckle first? Northwood still messing with those close tin spawns, but you don't have to really worry about that for the next 20 seconds. Unless you're Bay State and you have to worry about just trying to get out of your spawn. Look at how far forward Northwood are playing right now, just making sure Bay State feel the pressure.
Oh, and Infinite just getting cheeky, taking an advanced position, just getting aggressive over through Granny's 4 in a row. The pistol's good for the 5th. And that creates a lot of clearance in and around this courtyard hardpoint. Significant time starting to be accrued by the Timberwolves, and Radial furthers that point by getting a double. Also softens up the last contestant of Rex to push him out. So with 13 seconds to fight for, advantage back over towards Northwood. Need to see a response on this rotation for Bay State. It's a 3-for-1 exchange. An opportunity for them with hardpoint 1 still active. They could still flip spawns around. Every kill right here is a massive one, but none of them are going the way of Bay State. Northwood spawns up, wins the gunfights, and now they're in a dominant position around the second hill.
And Radial previously to take down Phantoms actually keeps Barn intact for them, as well as the spawns coming around the back. The two players could not get around the back, and they could not get inside Barn. Initial time is here. This is the biggest lead we've seen all game.
How do you break this from the front if you're Bay State? Drugsy offers an possible opportunity, but gets cut down. Now Silly has to go. Wins the opener. Wants more than that, and it was greedy. The thing about it is they actually have kind of separated Infinite from the rest of the players in the hard point, and how about it? There's still 28 seconds to fight for here. Northwood's got the numbers. Drugsy able to reinforce, and I don't know, timing-wise for Northwood, a bit suspect on what they were trying to do there, going from 2 to 3. They get punished, and that's a lifeline to Bay State.
That's one of those forced errors that you cannot afford to do because Bay State will absolutely eat it alive, but you still have about a 40-point lead. You have time to play with, and you're going to be able to get in towards the back. Radial secures it. Kill number 30 for Radial, and we're not even at the 200-point threshold.
Yeah, he's just moving a little bit different right now, Bakash. So we'll open up the Granny's house. Northwood in favor for now. Multiple points of ingress, though, being threatened by Bay State. And Silly wins the opener, sliding forward. Rex clearing the backside windows. He's got a really good look at Infinite, who still turns that into a double. The trade does still come through, though. Now it's on to Silly and Drugsy, trying to force the issue forward, and they can't get out of the corners. Northwood with the proximal spawns reinforced, and they reclaim the hard point.
Still trying to fish out more kills. Going to catch weak Phantoms just above on A plat. Still going to try to contest this, though, if you're Bay State. You cannot allow all this time to come through, but Radial is playing with a certain amount of heat. Yes, he's only on a 2 spree, no streaks to speak of, but these 32 kills, you really feel like they've all been influential on the map, Alan.
Numbers to break, trying to work this scrap time now for Bay State. Drugsy stunned up, Bink, but it doesn't make much of a difference. It's on to Silly trying to hold, and Radial's not able to recontest the scrap. Now it's down to having to win a rotation here for Bay State. A lot of the focus is towards the initial time, though. Honestly speaking, for the Bulldogs, they've got no routes being hit on the backside. Rex is trying to get there, but he loses all of his teammates. Fame gets the triple, but the spawns still allow a second member to get here. Radial on the read, shuts down one, knows that there's a second player deep, and it's going to be his job to try to track down Phantoms. Sees him at range, but doesn't have quite the hot enough to have to take down Phantoms. The biggest thing about it, though, is Fame from inside the hard point is now on 6 in a row as Northwood continue to accrue time.
That's absolutely the case. I mean, Bay State, you can get the close spawns all you want, but you cannot get inside this hard point for free. Northwood will get over 200 points. You would really feel before Bay State can actually get inside the hard point, which as soon as I say it, the kills actually finally come through. The coordinated pinch is absolutely beautiful for Bay State to find the kills required for a much-needed break here on 4.
There's really 2 things you're looking for right now if you're Bay State. Number 1, lock down this scrap time without any contest. Number 2, can anybody possibly start working towards potential streaks? Because at a 50-point gap, with Scrappy Hills in front of you, you would love an extra resource so you can continue to commit to the back 20 seconds of these upcoming hills. We'll see. The game right back down to inside a 40-point margin. Northwood, sure, they've got the favored setup and spawns, but they're not actually far enough forward to get onto the hard point itself. So Bay State a chance to try to work a route, maybe catch a bit of timing. Drugsy, route man, does he get paid twice? Is he going to get paid double? Gets the first, can't find the second kill, but the help is coming through. It's a clean white kill feed for Bay State. They get the break.
40 seconds still left to play here in P5. This is an amazing time that Bay State can absolutely play for. You got Rex already zoning away towards the back. He's got a double weapon setup. He can absolutely lay into pressure, but the biggest issue is that Northwood coming away from spawn. They're looking for that main street road first and foremost, but they do find that kill on a Rex, so now they can pinch to be able to break back inside the hard point and push themselves over 200.
This is a big back, 23 seconds. If you're Bay State, you're hoping somebody can finesse. Rex trying to cut across the top bridge. Not going to happen. So now, who's the next one forward? It's going to be Phantoms. Has to expose himself over to the trench side, and off-screen Fame takes a key gunfight win. This is going to force Bay State to have to continue to throw numbers at P5. Opportunity for Northwood to trap them at Old, and that's indeed the case. The game still within about 40 points, but Radial has been untouched all map. 38-28, doing it all for his team. And now an opportunity to possibly influence the spawns, but Phantom shuts it down, and Bay State still a chance to get back to Courtyard.
Still have a chance, but look at the play that just came through as well. Bink already pushed through all of the tank formations, and nobody from Bay State was ready for that to come all the way through. The spawns will flip over on the backside of 10. So ample time to battle over here on 1, but Bay State are willing to find where these Northwood players are located at.
The kills are still coming through. Rex was able to counter the route. Silly's got him trapped. Backside stables. Needs to convert these eliminations, though. Northwood still have the opportunity to spawn in. Time is decent for Bay State on the hard point. We're getting closer and closer to 60 seconds on the game clock as well, which could be a factor depending on what happens here at P2. It's going to have to be from the front, though, for Bay State. And Radial's hitting around the flip over towards Courtyard, and it's a double for Radial. Wow. Any pressure onto the hill is fine. Pressure towards the game clock is also potential win condition for Northwood, but hold on, because Bay State have brought us back to within 20.
So I'll have to be able to break this from the front. Fame's going to find a timing. He's got a sub. He's going to be able to at least find one on the backside of Dashy Tank. Nice trade coming out from Silly, but you also have to be weary. Dylan Rex is coming around the back, and this could open things up for Bay State to break.
He needs to just individually go huge. Has to. Gonna get one for free, no problem. He gets the second on the hard point. That's gonna neutralize everything. 230 to 196. Numbers are good for Bay State, but the spawns are still in for Northwood. Bay State have read this largely, though. They're ready to fight against this. Infinite on the break over towards Barn. Gets a couple, and it's Bink and Radial behind him. 231 to 203. Full team wipe coming up. 25 seconds on the clock means you've got the opportunity for Northwood to win it right here.
They can still try to close it out, and they're playing such a forward position. They're finding all the kills required, and they find Phantoms on the flank.
Oh, but Silly gets the double. This actually takes one player off the hard point for now. Still a chance to win it here. You have to get the kills. Infinite trying to zone forward. Forward in a row. Give him number 5. No one's going to touch. And Northwood will secure an initial piece of revenge onto their rivals, so to speak, of Bay State, and punch the first ticket to the grand finals.
There was a lot of talk about what happened online. They won in 5, did Bay State. But here on LAN, things are a little diffy. In Northwood, woo, as confident as you like, we're definitely making sure everybody knew they were the team to beat this weekend. In Radial, woo, what an emphatic map 4 that just was. My man was letting loose, I swear. If I didn't see him on the player camera, I would have thought that he just ran so fast with that map, his hair would be sticking straight up in the air. Insane map number 4 coming out from Radial. You needed that.
You can't deny the curls.
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be curled. I'm just saying it would be straight up in the air.
There's no straightener in the world that could have gotten those things and not bounced right back. An unbelievable map from Chris Radial, and it's number 2 Northwood securing at least an initial appetizer of revenge and securing a major advantage for possibly becoming champions here in Season 4. We look back at the stat line, 44 and 32, 4,600 damage, 33 non-traded kills. I mean, we could sit here and just read off all the numbers. They're all incredible.
I will. No, I'm not going to do that. But even still, like, you look at what, like, Radial's highest streak was 3. Every single time that he was alive, it was just constant, just two-piece, die, two-piece, die. It's just one of those things that Radial was only finding influential kills across the map. Was always trying to go against the rotation of what Druxy was always trying to bring to the table. And it worked because it allowed the rest of the team for Northwood to always find these avenues, these different angles where Fame could either load in with a submachine gun or load in with an automaton, watch the longer line of sight, pick up the cross to allow Radial to push all the way back through a hard point, it's just what makes this team just so scary. The teamwork was at an all-time high throughout the entirety of that map number 4.
A recap over the entire map series layout in a really tight affair in all 3 of the respawns. The only real convincing moniker that we could really attribute to one side or the other was the search and destroy, and that's good news, I would say, overall for Northwood after what they had kind of faltered on against this Bay State team in the regular season during Stage 2. For them to come out and look as polished and clean, even against a lot of the known strengths that Bay State's going to have on a map like Desert Siege Search, stopping Phantoms from dominating dunes, controlling mid-map tempo. Those are now established major threats if we were to see this map again, whether they play Ottawa in the grand finals or if they play this Bay State roster. They really did showcase a different level of understanding over that map in particular in my mind.
I think it's the overall just like turn rate, right? I mean, when you're thinking about from Northwood, look, if what we were talking about previously with our first series of the day, how there were no exceptions, you knew that match was happening. The same could be said, but a lot more timing for these 2 teams in particular.
Yeah.
But you really do feel like with the amount of times that both of these 2 juggernauts of colleges have faced off against each other throughout the entire year of Vanguard, that obviously there's a lot of VOD to study up with your own gameplay to boot, that it just comes down to putting in the work. And again, that's what it mostly comes down to. From turning a 2-6 Desert Siege online during CCL stage number 2 into what we just saw, it's night and day. This is a different Northwood roster than what we saw in stage 2.
Well, with all of that, we're getting ready now for the lower finals. Ottawa will be playing up against Bay State. This is a rematch from winners round 1, and money is now officially starting to become very significant. But hey, if you like money, our friends at Nelnet Bank are giving away $1,000 to you guys on the stream. Exclamation point giveaway right now in the chat. We'll get you all the information of how you can apply, how you can become eligible for the giveaway in particular. And, of course, just more information on Nelnet if you're looking for some sort of a banking provider. Big stuff all the way throughout. More to come, though. Lower finals next up on the docket. Don't go anywhere. What else you got to do today? The answer is nothing. We got CCL playoffs continuing on the backside of the break.